Have you ever wondered what the world would look like today if the Great Flood had never occurred? Imagine a primordial world, untouched by the Great Flood, where everything remains pristine, brimming with mystery and legends. This was a time when beings of remarkable power roamed the earth, and civilizations flourished, only to vanish into the annals of history. According to the Bible, it was a world where immortals lived for centuries, where the divine and human realms coexisted, and where the foundation of humanity was laid long before the flood wiped it all away. The story of the world before the flood, as recounted in the book of Genesis, is one of intrigue and wonder. It was a time of innocence, a world untouched by the darkness and sin that would later taint it. The story begins with the creation of the first humans, Adam and Eve, formed in the image of God. They were not just individuals, but the beginning of the human journey setting the course for all of humanity. In the Garden of Eden where Adam and Eve lived, they were surrounded by a paradise of lush gardens, abundant fruit, and an atmosphere of peace and purity. It was here, in this perfect place, that the events occurred that would forever alter the fate of the world. Adam and Eve's choice to eat the forbidden fruit set in motion a chain of events that would change the course of history. From that moment on, humanity would face trials, tribulations, and a new understanding of freedom and responsibility. The world before the flood is not just an ancient myth, but a story that continues to resonate with lessons about choice, free will, and the consequences of our actions. These stories still echo today, reminding us of the past and perhaps offering insight into the future. Direct communication with the Creator was a clear reality, and each day felt like a symphony of peace and harmony. But the seductive serpent of temptation slithered into the Garden of Eden. Eva, lured by the promise of forbidden knowledge, succumbed and ate the forbidden fruit. Adam, influenced by his companion, did the same. This act of disobedience set off a chain of events that changed the course of humanity. The moment of rebellion brought awareness of good and evil, the loss of innocence, and the realization of both physical and spiritual nakedness. God, in his justice, summoned Adam and Eve to question their actions. This was not merely a violation of a rule, but a pivotal moment in the intimate relationship between God and humankind. Faith was replaced by doubt, harmony by conflict, and creation now bore the stain of sin, overshadowing the initial perfection of Eden. Yet, even in this dark moment, a spark of hope emerged. God, in his compassion, did not abandon his creations. He clothed them with garments he himself had made, symbolizing his protection against their shame, while also declaring the consequences of sin and promising redemption for the future. Time passed and Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel. Cain, the firstborn, carried the joy and gratitude of Eve for the gift of life, while Abel represented the hope of a new generation. The two brothers grew up in the nurturing environment of Eden, learning to worship and offer sacrifices to God. However, even in the sanctuary of Eden, seeds of discord began to sprout. When it was time to offer their gifts, Abel gave the best of his flock, a gesture reflecting his sincerity and devotion. Cain, on the other hand, offered the fruits of his harvest, but his heart was not fully dedicated. God accepted Abel's offering, recognizing the purity of his intentions. Cain, in response, became envious and angry. Instead of correcting his heart, he allowed his resentment to fester into a deadly toxin. In a fit of rage, Cain lured Abel into the field and, blinded by emotion, committed the first murder in human history. The earth witnessed the first shedding of human blood, a stain that would echo throughout history. God confronted Cain, offering him a chance to repent, but Cain chose the path of sin. The Bible tells us that in addition to rejecting Cain, God marked him in some way. The exact nature of this mark is not clearly described in the Bible, leaving room for interpretations and speculation. Some believe it was a visible sign marking him as the first murderer in history, while others view it as a spiritual symbol representing God's judgment and separation. Whatever the nature of the mark, it became a constant reminder of Cain's actions. Furthermore, it served as a form of divine protection, ensuring no one would harm Cain. This emphasizes that even in justice, God still shows mercy. After the tragic event where Cain killed Abel, he left his familiar surroundings and ventured into the land of Nod, beyond the known borders. There, Cain began a new chapter in his life, finding a wife and having a son named Enoch. Though the shadow of his past still followed him, Cain's life and family moved forward. The Bible emphasizes that Cain not only started a new life, but also left a mark on the land of Nod by founding a city. He named the city after his son, Enoch, which could symbolize his desire for stability and a fresh start, perhaps even an attempt to build a legacy that would overcome the tragedy of the past. However, no matter how hard Cain tried to establish something lasting, the stain of the first murder in history could never be erased. It's important to note that the Bible doesn't go into great detail about intellectual or technological advancements in the years before the flood. Instead, it focuses primarily on the spiritual and moral aspects of the characters' actions, highlighting the relationship between humanity and the Creator. Even so, humanity showed remarkable capabilities long before the flood. Cain didn't just build a city, he laid the foundations for a future. Another central figure, Noah, who is pivotal in the flood narrative, stands out for his absolute obedience to God in building the ark. This monumental task required not only faith, but also technical knowledge and organizational skills, as Noah had to construct a ship that could house every species of animal. To clarify a common question before I answer, I hope you'll like this video and subscribe to our channel to support our work. Regarding the genealogy in the Bible, the story of Adam and Eve remains a topic of study to this day. After being cast out of the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve had Cain, Abel, and later Seth, who played a crucial role in continuing the human lineage. Interestingly, the book of Genesis also mentions that Adam and Eve had other sons and daughters, though their names aren't listed in the Bible. Other sources like the book of Jubilees confirm this and even provide the names of some of their daughters. If you're interested, we have a video on our channel about Adam and Eve's daughters. Seth's lineage continued through important names such as Enos, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, and Methuselah, each representing a generation that witnessed the highs and lows of human history. The genealogy of humanity in the Bible reached a significant turning point through Noah, who was chosen by God to survive the great flood with his family. After the flood, Noah and his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, continued to rebuild and repopulate the earth. However, the period before the flood, while clearly depicted in the Bible, particularly in the book of Genesis, lacks a precise timeline. The events leading up to the flood are calculated based on the ages of the biblical figures, revealing that the flood took place when Noah was 600 years old. For example, Adam lived to be 930 years old, and other figures like Seth, Enos, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, and Lamech also lived for several centuries. Scholars estimate about 1,600 years from creation to the flood, based on the genealogies. However, it's important to note that the Bible does not provide exact figures for each year, and these calculations are based on interpretations of the genealogical consistency and other details in the flood narrative. The reason for such extraordinary lifespans remains a fascinating topic. One of the most notable figures with an incredibly long life is Methuselah, who lived to 969 years, setting the record for the longest lifespan in the Bible. Some theories suggest that the environment at the time may have played a significant role in human health, with cleaner air and less pollution compared to the post-flood world. Additionally, the diet during that period, consisting mainly of natural, fresh foods, may have contributed to their extended lifespans. Another crucial factor was the close relationship between humans and the Creator. Before the flood, humans had direct communication with God, a unique closeness that was lost in later generations. This connection not only influenced health, but also shaped the spiritual and moral foundation of humanity. The story of Noah and his family is not just the survival of mankind after the flood, but also a significant spiritual transition in human history. It's the relationship with God that allowed Noah to overcome the greatest challenge of his life. Despite the long lives and closeness to God in the pre-flood era, the story serves as a reminder of humanity's dependence and reverence toward the Creator in all aspects of life. In the period before the flood, daily life for humans was largely focused on connection with nature and hard labor. People cultivated the land, raised livestock, drew water from rivers, and offered sacrifices to God. It was a simple society where life was intertwined with the worship and harmony with nature. Notably, before the flood, humans spoke only one language, a fact that is highlighted in the famous story of the Tower of Babel. However, the Tower of Babel was not just a physical structure. It symbolized human ambition, a desire to reach the heavens as a sign of self-reliance and glory. But God, seeing humanity's pride in their pursuit of power, decided to intervene. The Bible recounts that as humans were building the tower, God caused their languages to become confused. Suddenly, people began speaking different languages, creating confusion and division, which halted the construction. The name Babel comes from the Hebrew word balo, meaning to confuse, accurately reflecting the disruption God caused. The direct consequence of this intervention was the scattering of humanity across the earth. Unable to communicate effectively, people separated into distinct groups, each taking its own path. From this moment, different cultures and languages began to form, leading to the rich cultural diversity we see today worldwide. Along with the scattering of language, the Bible also describes the moral decay within society before the flood. Humanity drifted further from righteousness, sinking into sinful actions that contradicted the moral standards God had set. The society of that time was one plagued by violence and unchecked lust. The biblical stories paint a picture of a community being destroyed by immorality and the absence of justice. One of the notable elements in this context is the appearance of the Nephilim, mysterious beings with extraordinary strength and power, believed to have contributed to humanity's moral decline. These events not only reflect a historical period, but also serve as a lesson about human arrogance and unchecked ambition. God's intervention through the Tower of Babel and the stories of moral decay both point to the fact that when humanity strays too far from righteousness and worship, the consequence is fragmentation and ruin. In Genesis 6:1-4, there is a description of the sons of God interacting with the daughters of men, resulting in the creation of the Nephilim. This passage has sparked extensive debate and interpretation throughout history. One of the common explanations is that the sons of God were celestial beings or angels. According to this view, the fallen angels, who left their divine position, took human wives, giving birth to a hybrid race known as the Nephilim. These Nephilim are described as colossal, powerful beings, often referred to as giant monsters on earth. They were renowned in their time for their strange appearance and extraordinary strength. In ancient Jewish tradition, many believed that the Nephilim were associated with dark practices such as sorcery and even cannibalism. Ancient records tell of conflicts between these giant races, with celestial beings like the Archangel Gabriel possibly intervening, marking this event as a strange and deviant chapter in human history. These events not only reflect a tumultuous period, but also involve the intervention of fallen angels, beings who disrupted the order that God had established. The Nephilim were the direct result of this hybridization between divine creation and angelic interference, as angels manifested in human form and mingled with human women. Biblical descriptions suggest that some Nephilim were as tall as 5 meters, a remarkable figure that set them apart from the average human of that era. During this time, the prophet Enoch foretold the coming of God with thousands of holy ones to judge the wicked for their sinful acts and arrogance. Additionally, the Bible references other giant creatures, such as Leviathan, a fire-breathing sea dragon, with metallic scales mentioned in the book of Job. These creatures are now often interpreted as prehistoric animals, possibly dinosaurs, symbolizing a mysterious and wild world before the flood. All these events took place over a period of about 1,200 years, from the time of Jared to Noah's flood, marking an era referred to in the Bible as the Great Tribulation. This period is noted for the appearance of fallen angels, giants, and the rise of sorcery and witchcraft, all of which played a part in the formation of ancient civilizations. In the book of Genesis, the story of the Nephilim highlights the extent of corruption in human society before the Great Flood. The union between the sons of God and the daughters of men produced strange beings known as Nephilim, reflecting the moral decay and increasing depravity of humankind. The appearance of these creatures, along with the growing spread of sin, eventually led God to decide to cleanse the earth through the flood. Amidst this corrupt society, there were notable individuals who stood out as exceptions, one of whom was Enoch. Enoch had a special and close relationship with God, so much so that, unlike others, he did not experience a normal death, but was taken directly to heaven by God. Another prominent figure from this period was Noah, a man of righteousness and integrity. In a world filled with wickedness, Noah was chosen by God to fulfill a great mission, to build an ark and preserve life. Noah's obedience to God was remarkable. His task of building the ark was a testament to his unwavering faith in God and his commitment to protecting life. During the construction, Noah also became a preacher of righteousness, warning the people about the coming flood and calling them to repentance. However, society rejected his warnings, mocked him, and continued in their sinful ways. When the flood came, it lasted for 40 days and 40 nights, covering the entire earth. Only Noah, his family, and the animals aboard the ark were saved. After the floodwaters receded, Noah sent out a dove to check the condition of the earth. When the dove returned with an olive leaf in its beak, Noah understood that the earth had dried and was ready for renewal. This moment symbolized a new beginning and hope for all of creation. After the flood, God established a covenant with Noah and all living creatures. The rainbow became the sign of this covenant, a promise that God would never again destroy the earth with a flood. This covenant symbolized not only God's justice, but also his mercy towards all life on the planet. The story then continues with the rebirth of humanity, starting with Noah's family. His 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, became the ancestors of new nations. Noah's blessings and curses upon his sons played a significant role in shaping the future nations, marking a fresh start for mankind under the guidance and promise of God. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to check out other similar Bible stories on the Miraculous Bible Stories channel. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Thank you, and may God be with you. See you next time.